Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi.
Hey folks, how have you been? And welcome to Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi. This program today will be on how do you lead? Because we have with us a leader and a very versatile leader at that, Jen Aks. Jen Aks is an embodied leadership coach. She is a TEDx speaker, the author of Your Body is Speaking. She is also the founder of The Power of Gesture, a science based somatic practice that reconnects people to three intelligence systems: emotional, somatic, and kinesthetic, leveraging the brain hand connection to calm the nervous system and access the body's innate wisdom. Oh, there's so much here. A lot of gems that we need to collect. With more than 30 years of experience as a dance educator and somatic practitioner, she guides leaders, creatives, and individuals worldwide to stop searching outside themselves for answers and instead trust the clarity, confidence, and self direction that already lives within. Oh, Jen, thank you so much for being my guest tonight. And welcome to Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Okay, I'm going to jump into, I have so many questions in my head, but I'm going to start asking you the first question that comes to my head, and that is, who is an embodied leadership coach, and what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, there are so many layers to that. There's leadership as we know it, how people see it, leading teams out in the world. Typically, when people think of leadership, they think about the corporate world and they don't see themselves as a leader necessarily unless they're running a business or in the corporate world or something. I see leadership as a place where we all meet. We all have this leadership quality. If we are influencing another human being, be it our children, our partner, our husband, wife, uh, friends, friend groups, communities, businesses, teams, whatever it is, if we're a coach, a teacher, we are a leader. We are of leadership to ourself, to be of our highest and best so that we can show up as authentically and powerfully in the world. So I look at leadership as a broad definition. And so with that, knowing, because I do know that we all are leaders of many sorts. And so my job as an embodied leadership coach is to help people realign with their truest values, what it is they believe, what it is they stand by, what it is they want to do with their lives, what lights them up. So my job is to really help people remember their power, their strength, their purpose, their message, ultimately listening to that voice from within, get embodied and then lead from the inside out. To me, this is the future of leadership. It's authentic, it's honest, and truthfully, I feel like it's just what the world needs.
Honestly, so do I, by the way. I think the
Yeah,
same thing. I think last time that we were talking about the innate leadership in that a person has is born with, and that is
right.
something that I advocate all the time. So
Yep.
a lot of common things here. How is that how you founded the power of gesture?
Um, it was really an extension of, it was the result of myself becoming re-embodied and connected to my truth. So that because once we do that, then we have to have the courage to go live it and let it lead. So I went through the process that I now guide my clients and my communities on. So yes, I became embodied, reconnected to the source, reconnected to my disconnection, allowing it to teach me and inform me of who I truly am, how I got off track, all the things to get re-embodied. And then from that place, I started to lead. And so the power of gesture is the outcome of my, the process and the journey that I've been on. So now I help people with this tool, which we can talk about, And this is the tool that helps people get realigned, as I did for myself.
So how does this power of gesture is, I know you're saying that it is a
Yeah,
science-based somatic practice,
yeah.
and it connects people to the three intelligence systems. Can you tell us that in a
Yes.
more layman's language?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to give you a specific example. So when the pandemic hit, everyone was at home, right? And we were all kind of looking for community and connection and art and just all kinds of things to reevaluate and reconnect with ourselves and each other. And because of my background as a dance educator for 30 years, because of my re-embodiment journey, because of my deep understanding of these forms of intelligence within us, I knew that I could help people realign and reconnect to their innate wisdom. The three intelligences, PS, I just want to mention, are kinesthetic, as you mentioned at the beginning, somatic, and emotional. And we can get into those. But essentially, those are three innate forms of intelligence that we all have. We've just disconnected from them or been conditioned out of listening to that innate wisdom. Because of my own journey, I got very familiar with these three forms of intelligence. And so fast forward now to the pandemic, with my research, with my understanding of the innate wisdom within, with my education background as a dancer and dance educator, all the things, I knew that I could help people get through this moment, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. I didn't wake up and say, oh, I'm going to create this thing called the power of gesture. This was birthed out of my soul of just knowing how to do this intuitively. So I started working with people and I would ask them to embody their emotions with their hands. First, we had to figure out, what is it that you're feeling? So let's just say they were I'm feeling anxious or isolated. So then I would ask them to take that energy, understand where it is in their body, kind of feel into that, and then create a hand gesture. Now, the reason I asked for a hand gesture was because I wanted us to stay close to the camera, because I wanted to see their eyes and feel their energy as much as possible. I didn't want them going too far from the camera. So I just asked if they would use their hands, and they would. And from the angst to the release, or to the freedom, to the joy, whatever, we were able to transform emotions from a place of angst, worry, isolation to a place of freedom, clarity, and knowing. And it was incredible to me. So I got so excited to see these people able to tap into this innate wisdom, embody it, and transform it. So I wound up working with hundreds of people all over the world because it was the time people were at home and easily accessible. We were all on Zoom. So I was able to interact with so many different types of people from different backgrounds, different cultures, different religions and ethnicities, all of it. And it was incredible. So I then asked myself, why is this working? How is this possible that we're using the hands to help us calm the nervous system and transform our emotions into something that feels aligned and powerful? So that's when I started doing the research. And so it was like this thing was birthed out of me. Then I had to follow that and then go do the research. And then I found all of the research, well, a lot of research that relates to the hand brain connection and how the hands really have this direct line to our nervous system and to our knowing. And I can get into it in a little bit, but that kind of summarizes. So then I trademarked the power of gesture. And now this is the practice that is at the center of my work that helps people realign, calm their nervous system. Well, I should say that reverse first, calm their nervous system, because we cannot realign or gain clarity until our nervous system is calm. So the first thing it does is it calms the nervous system. Then we gain the clarity. Then we restore the confidence and the knowing to then go do the thing we need to go do.
Fantastic. Just for people who might be wondering, what does somatic mean, or what does kinesthetic mean?
Right. Yeah. So kinesthetic intelligence is the physical body's ability to be able to help us move and process and express through movement. So a lot of high kinesthetic intelligence lives inside of, athletes, musicians, surgeons, artists, people that are using their hands and their body to do what it is they're doing in their life, right? And so it's a very highly accessible and relatable way to really communicate. So a lot of speakers also have a lot of kinesthetic intelligence. We all do. It's just a matter of becoming aware of it and then using it as an asset, which is what I'm trying to do, bring awareness to it. So that's kinesthetic intelligence. Emotional intelligence, I started researching emotional intelligence when I was in a dark place in my own life, questioning my own intelligence and my worthiness. And I came across Howard Gardner, who's a Harvard professor and author and psychologist, who's written a lot about 9 forms of intelligence. And he breaks it down. He breaks down emotional intelligence into 2 things, interpersonal and intrapersonal, one of which is the knowing inside, being aware of our emotions, right? You're doing, yes, you're doing, seeing your gesture. So knowing and connecting to that, the emotions within ourselves, understanding them, being able to access them and hopefully manage them. And then the other form, which is having the awareness of other people's emotions. So inter and intra make up emotional intelligence. And then somatic is that gut knowing. It's that like underneath, it's what our ancestors relied on. It's that instinct for to survive and thrive. It's that, you know, when the hair goes up on your back because you sense danger, or you walk into a room and you know that something's off, or you meet someone and you know immediately that there's a connection. That is that deep inner gut wisdom, heart wisdom that we have so lost the presence of that because of social media and technology. So these 3 forms are physical body, our emotional, sensational intelligence within, and then the somatic, that deeper, going into that layer even further. The 3 of them are innate within all of us. So it's about bringing us back into this deep awareness so that we can truly remember that we all have it. And now it's about how do we access it, listen to it, and have the courage to be led by it.
This is fantastic, and thank you for explaining it so beautifully and so, in such simple language so that becomes quite clear to everyone. But let's go back a little. Let's try to understand, did dance educator happen first and then somatic practitioner?
Yeah, so that's why I was like referencing different moments to give you a very quick timeline. Me as a, you know, child in school, becoming disconnected from that innate wisdom within because I questioned myself, because everybody around me, right, in my time was intelligence was measured by a number, by how well you did on your SAT scores. That was like everything surrounding me, every conversation, all of it. And so I didn't do well on any of that. So I second guessed myself, which became a very large presence in my body because I just didn't think I was smart. I didn't think I belonged. It completely affected my worthiness. Okay. Throughout those years of that shame and doubt, I was a dancer, and the dance, I didn't realize it at the time, but dance is what kept me grounded. It allowed me to stay connected to my body, but I didn't know what was happening. I'm just grateful now that I know to say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I had dance to help me get through a very difficult 2 decades. At the end of my 20s, that's when I had my rock bottom moment of just like, enough is enough. I am worthy. I am smart. Who am I really became the question. And I had this massive shift. And that's when I came into the research of Howard Gardner and the different forms of intelligence. That started me being able to restore. That's why I talk a lot about in my work, helping people restore, not learn something new, but restore something old, restore what's already there, because that's what happened to me. So I started restoring and gaining my confidence and realizing there's multiple forms of intelligence and I am not measured by one thing. So that restoration happened over the course of 18 years. While I was doing the research, I was also starting my teaching career. And I was literally teaching kinesthetic learning, kinetic learning, teaching children curriculum through the body, through the arts. And so I was empowering children the way I wished that I was empowered as a child, knowing that I could learn kinesthetically, visually, but that wasn't available to me at my time. So I threw myself into this work. I wound up teaching thousands of children and hundreds of teachers because eventually my heart was so in this work because it was my healing journey as well. I became the trainer for the organization. I wound up teaching tons of teachers around the country this methodology of kinetic learning and kinesthetic intelligence, and let's empower these children. So that was my life. Then the pandemic hits. Then I get on Zoom. I take all of this with me, and that's when the power of gesture was born.
One question here on when you were a dancer yourself,
Yeah.
when you started, how how would you feel after? Because I'm not a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you feel after, say, a dance practice of maybe an hour that you have done in a day? And how would you feel at the end of it? Other than feeling exhausted, of course, physically exhausted, but what else?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I felt home. I felt more home in my body than I felt in any other aspect of my life. I loved dance and I poured myself into it because I was connected to something bigger than me. I didn't know what that was. I knew that I was able to communicate with other people without words. I knew that there was an instant, innate connection of kindness and love. And there was an energetic exchange that I thrived on. So I loved going to the studio and I loved being on stage, not to perform necessarily, but more so just to connect and do this storytelling in a totally different way. So how did I feel before I walked into a studio? I was very excited to get there. And then I was even more empowered and connected when I left. But again, I didn't have this awareness of all these layers of what really was happening. And that's why I want to share this wisdom with others and help them connect to it so that they're not guessing why something is working, why they feel a certain thing when they walk into a room, or they're in a relationship that no longer serves them, or they're in a relationship that absolutely serves them and everybody else thinks it's whatever it is. I want people to understand what is happening at the cellular level and not question, but just know and be okay with that. Anyway, I went off in a little bit of a direction for you, but I don't know if that answers the question that you
No,
asked.
no, it's perfect. It's perfect
Yeah.
because that's how,
Mm-hmm.
not only am I trying to understand your journey, but
Right.
also your journey of how you progressed and founded the power of gesture. But I'm
Right.
also trying to understand that nowadays when people use dance as a therapy, what really
Mm.
happens. So,
Oh, mm-hmm.
just trying to join the dots here to understand what did you go through, because you said that was a difficult
Right.
phase of your life. So
Yeah.
how did
Well,
you actually go
mm-hmm.
about it? That's
Yeah.
what I was trying
Well,
to understand.
yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, I think people really, I hope people understand you don't need to be a dancer to get to a place of knowing. That's just not it. Dance was my path. Dance was what I experienced, but that is not it. What I've been given the gift to do is to take my experience of dance and learn the body the way I have been able to learn it through teaching, through guiding, through coaching, through my own research, to then distill it down to uh, the power of gesture so that people know they do not need to dance in order to reach this higher awakening. They need to be willing to use their hands and be vulnerable, period. So it is a movement practice. The hands are the power of gesture is a practice that involves that kinesthetic movement that I had through dance, but others don't need to do that. We can just use our hands because the movement alone will awaken and calm and give us the courage and the clarity, all the things that I'm talking about. So that's what people, because I remember when I first started this whole movement, people would say, "Oh, I've never danced before. I don't know that I can." And I right away, it's just that is not, that was my experience, but that is not what I'm creating for other people. Sometimes we get there. People like to get up and dance, and that's okay too, but that's not the practice.
One thing you mentioned is being vulnerable.
Hmm.
How how is, using your brain hand connection actually exhibiting or showing vulnerability?
Yeah, it's so deeply connected and layered. The safety has to happen first. In order to be vulnerable, I believe that we have to find safety first. And in the spaces that I hold, safety is created because I care so deeply and people feel that immediately. My job is to guide people back to themselves. And I care so deeply about it. And I think people really feel that. So once that safety is within the community, then the vulnerability comes through. But that's a community level, right? Feeling safe within the community to then be able to share and embody the emotions that we're feeling, to then transform the feeling into something that feels aligned and of service to our highest self. Individuals need to find that safety within themselves as well. So safety is the first thing that happens. And so how do we do that in order to become vulnerable? Because we have to be able to have that courage to do it. But there are steps before then. So the safety is created not only by me in a community, on an individual level, we meet, I really encourage people to meet themselves where they are at. There is so much language around I should be this or I should be that, or why can't I open up the way she is or he is? Why can't I be vulnerable? I'm too afraid. This entire practice is about really leaning into where you are and allowing yourself to be exactly where you are, honoring that. Once that is honored, right, that could just be, I might in a first session with someone, literally just have them put their hand on their heart, stomach, and close their eyes, and they might not do anything else when it comes to embodying what it is they feel. I've had many clients just say, I don't feel like I can move my hands. And I'm like, that is great to know because that's what your body needs. Your body needs safety. Your body is not ready to just dive into how you feel right now. That just feels too vulnerable. So to answer your question, how do we get to that vulnerable state? We have to meet ourselves where we are at by honoring and just trusting the process, trying to, push ourselves into that for a moment. And then we go and then we build from there. Safety, courage, vulnerability, listening, learning, returning back to the truth of who we are, and then finding the trust to then go lead from that place.
Amazing. I was just thinking, I was recently reading an interview of I think a Miss Universe or some, of a winner of a beauty pageant.
Mm,
And this lady mentioned something which links back to the vulnerability. She mentioned that, the swimsuit round, which people talk about, and it's such a big highlight of any beauty pageant, that is actually a, a test of a person's self-confidence. It has got nothing to do with what the person is wearing. It is the self confidence of that person to feel vulnerable enough wearing a swimsuit in front
right.
of tens and thousands of people
Mm,
who are looking at her, but at the same time to be able to project the self confidence, knowing that any weakness will be spotted immediately. So, when you talk about safety, and this lady was also talking about how the training actually builds them to be self-confident, which comes from knowing that whoever is there out there, they are not really coming forward or touching or something. They're just there they can watch that, and that's the borderline, that is the boundary. And so there's safety. So I
Mm,
was just, it just
mm,
came to my mind that, vulnerability can be and at various forms, and how safety and having that those boundaries make it so very important for, I think, for all kinds of coaching. Anybody who's a coach or who is guiding leaders, as you're guiding leaders,
mm.
needs to have that. How do you develop these boundaries? How do you actually, what is your methodology of coaching your clients who are mainly leaders and creatives?
Mhm. How does it what? I'm sorry, I want to understand the question.
What is your methodology? What do you do to guide and to coach your clients?
Mm-hmm. So a part of that is something that I want to comment on regarding the woman in the bathing suit, because what something came to me strongly and I just wanted to share. Um, when I pictured her standing there with her, on the stage with her bathing suit, and how vulnerable that can feel. And something that came to me, and it is partly what I do with my clients to help them do the thing, whether they're on a stage, in a bathing suit, or going to do a TEDx talk, or write a book, or lead a family, or whatever it is they're doing. To me, how we get to that authentic, powerful presence is by knowing our why. Like, it's all about the internal world for me before it has anything to do with anybody else and what they see and what they're getting. None of that matters until we do that inner work in my world. So for her, I'm thinking, what a beautiful why for her could be. I'm trying to empower, you know, um, girls to be in their body, to stand in a bathing suit in front of the world, proud of who they are, or, whatever the why is, whatever her, position is, whatever her intention is. That would be interesting to me, what it is. Why is she standing there? What is the impact that she's trying to make on the world? I'd be curious. I love that deep understanding of someone. And so that is my passion, to help someone get to that place of understanding their why. What is their truth? So when you ask, how is it that I guide people? What is it that I do to get to that place of being able to set boundaries, being able to be authentic and vulnerable? It's getting to the root of who they are and what they care about, so that they can go through that journey of discovering, who am I, to then stand in I am. Who am I? What lights me up? Doing that inner work, that layered discovery, and then arriving at a place to say, I am standing here because I am love. I am. So it's going from the deepening of who we are to the knowing and the claiming. And that's what I help people cross over to.
Fantastic. How did you, this is, like you have, why am I, I'm my next question, I'm sorry, because I'm thinking of a lot of things, and a lot of things are coming into my head with this. And at the same time, the one thing that I would like to come on to and touch upon is your book,
Yeah.
Your Body is Speaking.
Yes.
How did that come about? And did it come about after your research and everything, or was it, an organic
It was
output?
another organic output. Everything has been this like incredible, divinely led journey. I really believe that for someone who's not very religious at all or anything, I'm full on into the divine intervention now, because everything has been divinely led. And I believe that's what it is for every one of us. I truly do believe that. That's a whole other conversation. Um, my book was a result of where I was in my life, everything that I had gone through, and then culminating with a beautiful marriage of 20 years. And when that chapter came to an end for me, I needed to leave the marriage, but there was nothing wrong with it. And there was no huge argument or buildup. It was just my body was telling me that we were coming to our closure of this chapter. And so to speak, that's funny that I said chapter because I'm about to talk about my book. But anyway, so I made this very significant move in my life. And then I started journaling about how I got there to this major decision where I had 2 children and a lot to consider. And it was, for me, the hardest thing I had ever done in my life at that point. And so I started reflecting and really thinking back of how I got to that decision and how I actually was able to make that hard decision. And so it was all about my body telling me, well, how did it tell me? How was it speaking to me? How did I gain the courage to do something like that? Now, this became broader and a message for so many people, not about marriage necessarily, but about just life. What happens when we reach the end point, but society says it's not the end point. My son did karate for many years and he didn't go to the black belt, but societies would say, oh, sorry, he didn't make it to the end. What? He got to where he was supposed to get to. He got to his blue belt or green belt or whatever it was. His journey was his journey. And I just throw that in there because that's what just came into my mind. But there's a million examples of this. We have our own path, and society cannot take that from us. We know when something has completed. We know if we have the courage enough to listen to our truth versus the external truth of so many parents, society, whatever it is. So religion, could be anything that's dictating our path. So I started journaling about my own experience. And then I realized what that larger message was. And then I just kept going because I realized how incredibly important it is for us to know that our body is speaking. It is speaking the language that we need to listen to. And it is essential for us to return to that voice and know what it is so that we can be authentic and, awaken this for others in the world because we truly need it now more than ever. So the book is timely, the message is timely, and that's how it all came about.
Fantastic. Oh, I just love the way how you have moved from, I mean, all of us have difficult phases of life, but you have moved from that to the next and to the next. And however difficult it has been, you seem to have gone through it quite organically and quite gracefully through the entire, all the transformations. What made you become a TEDx speaker?
Another organic. It's true. It's true. What happened was so I'm doing this book, and my book coach at the time was having an event. She loved my content, what I was building towards and everything. She had me come to an event in Austin, Texas and speak at her event. And there at her event was this TEDx speaker, very successful, and he was the keynote for this event, and he was phenomenal. And we got to know each other before the event even started. There was like an evening thing, and I didn't know that he was the keynote. We just started talking, and we really bonded. And he actually invited me up to participate in his keynote, which was hilarious and great and a great learning for me, and an incredible experience. Anyway, so I developed this relationship with him. A couple months prior to this event, I just applied. I applied to the TEDx in California, and I got to that because I was in a speaking group, and this woman happened to come in and lead one of our sessions, and she was fantastic. And I emailed her after and I said, "You're terrific. I would love for you to help me with this talk that I have in Austin." So I'm kind of like, I went forward and now I'm going backwards, but do you feel what I was in the speaking group, then this woman was there, And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to email her. She met with me one time. We went through my talk for the Austin event. She helped me, figure out a couple things. I get there, I meet the keynote there. That was amazing. And I said to him, I said, if I ever, I actually didn't say if I said, when I become a TEDx speaker and get that invitation, I'm going to call you. He said, great. So because I had applied a couple months earlier to the woman who ran the session, because she was the founder of one of the TEDx's out in California. And I came back from this event in Austin and I got a note saying that I was accepted as a speaker. And I called him right away. I said, I knew there was a reason I met you in Austin. I need you to coach me. And he was like, great, fly down to Tennessee. And I was like, great. And I got on a plane a couple weeks later and I worked with him for 72 hours. And it was transformative, incredible, absolutely phenomenal. I can't say enough about it. And then, I practiced a ton and then went out to California in August and delivered the speech, the talk.
Fantastic. Okay, so if you're, I would like to understand in a nutshell, what were the lessons that you learned from all the struggle that you went through?
Hmm. Well, the greatest lesson for me is around the innate wisdom within us. That is the greatest awakening and lesson because it is really the foundation of my work and help me restore the power within me to then go do all the things I needed to do. So the real like curricular lesson was around that research, learning the power that's within us all. So that is number one. Number two, I would say is I've really learned that showing up vulnerably is a gift because it allows others to do the same. I've definitely noticed when I'm doing whatever I'm doing, feeling grounded and present and authentic in whatever I'm doing, professional or personal. Sometimes other people might, oh God, get a little uncomfortable because it's present and is grounded. And I realize that it's just uncomfortable for them. It's a little uncomfortable because they want to be able to do it. I just don't know how to get there. And so I have learned that a person can make impact by just showing up as who they are. And I love that. So like if there's someone out there listening that's like, I want to make impact, I don't know how to make it, that just being you, which can be hard. That's why we do the work we're doing. But if it's like, if you're, I'll give you an example. If you're just laughing hysterically at something, someone else might be like, whoa, that's a little loud. I mean, but it's just them being uncomfortable. Just be the funny, be the loud, be the dancer on the street, like just be who you are. And that by itself makes such an impact and really gives permission to be themselves. So I just see that as the more we can awaken, the more we awaken. And that is a big learning for me as well. And I think I've also learned just lastly, I mean, there are a million things, but just the power of really understanding who we are at the core and then getting comfortable enough to live that life allows us to claim who we truly are in those I am statements. And I find there to be so much freedom in that. When we claim and we feel connected and comfortable with ourselves, then on the other side of that is just freedom in a way that I never realized. And that is truly my brand because I was just seeing the birds. I'm actually sitting in front of a window. My brand, my logo, I should say, has 3 birds flying. And I just saw birds flying out of this window. And that's the ultimate goal, is that elevation, is that freedom. And I think I definitely learned how to get there myself, but now it's about helping other people get there as well.
Okay, just out of curiosity, why three birds and not one bird?
Yeah, gosh, you ask great questions. 3 is my favorite number.
Okay.
3 is my favorite number. And also, my framework is the 3E framework: embody, empower, elevate. And the logo of it is this cyclical cycle because so that's 3. And I believe that we move in cycles. And so 3 is very representative of the work of the journey that I've been through. I had to embody to feel empowered and now elevate. And that's how I structure my programs and what I take people through. So there's the 3 there. Birds, I've always loved birds because it's flight, it's freedom, it's all of that. I also, when I got divorced, I tattooed 3 birds, me and my 2 kids, on my back, and they're like going upward. And so 3 is just a big, it's very significant in my life for many reasons.
Okay, coming to an end, one of the last questions which I think I ask everyone, and that is, how do you sustain your own energy? Because you're doing quite a lot of things. How do you actually sustain your own energy?
Yeah. So I work out. I like to work out. Not everybody needs to work out, but some sort of physical, you know, um, experience I think is good. And so for me, that I go to the gym, or I run, do something physical, and then spiritual always. So I meditate, even if it's for 5 minutes. It could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour. It really just depends on the day. But getting quiet is essential, I think, because when we sit quietly, we can hear that wisdom. So I make it a practice to put that in my life every day. So there's that. And I was going to say something else. And oh, I was going to say to the people, because there's so many people that say, I can't meditate, I don't know how to meditate, or I don't like to meditate, and sitting still. I get it. This is where the power of gesture can come in, and you can just take it or leave it from this conversation. But like, if someone is sitting there in meditation and they're feeling an energy, they can just kind of move their hands slowly. So it gives you something to do, or you can put your hands out in front of you as if you're receiving, palms to the sky, and keep your hands. So sometimes that can really help and keep you grounded in, because I know as soon as people hear meditation, a lot of times they're like, I don't like to meditate, or I don't. So the power of gesture actually gives you something to do while you're meditating and keeps you focused and connected to your body. Um, so yeah, I would say those 2 things: the physical and the spiritual piece. Very important daily for me. And I
Okay,
dance a lot.
oh, you dance a lot, of
Yeah.
course, of course. And I was expecting
Yeah.
that. Okay, this question is because I meditate myself. So, how did you begin your meditation practice?
Mm. It started 4 years ago during this big transition of my life. I didn't really meditate much before that. So this kind of put me into that. I started listening to a lot of Wayne Dyer and a lot of the spiritual leaders under the Hay House umbrella, which is a publishing company that publishes a lot of authors and their books around spirituality, awakening, this kind of thing. And so I started listening. I mean, I was just listening every single day to audiobooks. And that really got me into it. Gabby Bernstein was a big influence, Michelle Williamson, and many others. And so I just like entrenched myself in podcasts, in books, all of these things. And it catapulted me in between the journaling, the asking, and, hearing and taking the guidance from these spiritual thinkers. That's what really put me on the path. And it started working. So I stuck with it.
Fantastic. Coming to the last question as to how would you like my audience and my listeners to connect with you?
Oh, amazing. So you can go to my website, which is being redone right now, but it's still there, like the old version is still there, and you'll get a sense of the work completely. So that's www.jenaks.com. And then also Instagram or Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on all those things. You can also always email me at jen@jenaks.com.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Jen,
Oh,
for, oh, yes.
one other thing I was going to say. I'm going to send you a something you can offer your guests, your community. It's the Body Set to Reset practice. So it's a 5-day journey, very simple, takes like 2 minutes, and it's just every day for 5 days. You get an email and a video and a little bit of what to do that day. So it outlines the reset, which is recognize, embody, see, embody, and transform. And you'll understand that journey more when you get the emails, but it's really beautiful and super easy to access and practice. So I'm happy to give that to you if you'd like it.
Lovely. Definitely. Please do send it over.
I look
And we will put it at the end of the thing for our, for our
beautiful.
channel where we also other than airing the
Yes,
episodes, it is also put up there where from through which I will always connect with you as well. Fantastic.
beautiful.
We'll do that. And thank you very much once again for sharing your thoughts, your insights, your experiences. They are nuggets of gold wisdom that I am sure will empower us. Thank
Mm,
you. Thank you, Jen,
thank you so
once
much for
again.
having me. I appreciate you.